to this now. The Govender brothers found guilty of assault and attempted murder for the role that they played in 2021's July unrest have both been sentenced to 7 years behind bars. eNCA's Lethiwe Mdluli is following the story and joins us live now from Durban with the very latest. Lethiwe, a very warm good morning to you, colleague. I mean, what are these developments and what do they say, particularly on the Govender brothers' case as well as their sentencing?
Well, good morning, Dumelo. We're outside the Durban High Court this morning where the Govender brothers have been sentenced to 7 years imprisonment by Judge Kruger. But just to give us more information on the sentencing today, I'm now joined by the NPA's Natasha Kara. Natasha, thank you so much for joining us at eNCA this morning. You know, we heard a lot from the judge when he was giving that sentence. Today, can you just explain to us what took place inside?
Sure. The sentencing proceedings did continue in the Durban High Court today. The accused in the matter were convicted of assault GBH, assault common, as well as attempted murder. And for that, they received an effective sentence of 7 years imprisonment. The court also found them unfit to possess firearms. Interestingly as well, the court dismissed their application for leave to appeal on their convictions.
You know, we heard from the judge as to why he dismissed those two applications made by their lawyers or their representatives today. He gave some very extensive evidence as to why he was dismissing that application. Take us through that.
But basically, the defense in their arguments or to court mentioned that they respectfully submitted that the court may have erred in its the handling of certain evidence that was handed before court. However, the judge presiding over the matter found differently.
You know, this matter has been ongoing since 2021. Effectively, the brothers handed themselves over back in 2021 when they were accused of being a part of a group that assaulted a few people that were in Phoenix during the riots. Take us through the whole case. It was a very long process for us to get here. What happened during those court proceedings? We know that back in May, the two brothers were found not guilty of murder, but instead of attempted murder. The judge did state that the state failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the brothers actually killed Majola, who was found walking in Phoenix back in the day. Just take us through what happened during court proceedings all this time.
Well, firstly, I think it's important to note that matters of this nature do take long to come to court, and rightfully so. If you look at the evidence that was dealt with in court, it was video evidence that has to be made admissible to court firstly, and secondly for the state to unpack that information, and also to basically have that information within their grasp. So that is basically how we got to today. The judge in court did mention as well that the men had spent about 8 months in custody during that time, and the processes were followed as to any other court case, including the bail application, which was a lengthy one, and here we are today.
You know, Natasha, these are the first people that have been sentenced to prison following the riots that took place in 2021. No one else has been sentenced. Do you think that this is going to send a strong message for those people that are still facing some of the charges or maybe have been accused of taking part in the riots back in 2021?
That is indeed what the NPA would hope so. We would like the people in general to realize that matters of this nature, where people take the law into their own hands and behave in such unlawful behavior, will not be tolerated by the courts. We will react in a very strict way to it.
You know, back in May, there was also evidence, or basically the judge did say that the state did fail to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the brothers were actually the ones that murdered the 19-year-old that died due to the assault. Why was this found by the judge?
I wouldn't be able to go into the details of that, as it was evidence was led before court. However, the judge did find that they were not, whilst they were, I think they were charged for the assault common or the assault GBH with regards to the deceased. The judge said that they could be most likely another individual who could likely be held responsible for that murder charge.
And lastly, Natasha, are there any other people that we're going to see in court facing the same charges or that were arrested due to the rioting back in 2021?
With regards to this matter in particular, I'm not sure at this moment, no.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Dumelo, there you have it from the NPA side here in KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, the two brothers have been found guilty of assault and also common assault, and then they've been sentenced to 7 years in prison for these crimes. They were, of course, found guilty of these crimes back in May, and as I mentioned, this has been a long court process. It started back in 2021 following the looting that took place here in KwaZulu-Natal, and following that we saw the violent clashes that erupted in Phoenix, some people dying as a result of those violent clashes. Around 36 people died as a result, and now the states, or basically the police, are in pursuit to try and bring justice for those people that died. Here in this case, more specifically, the brothers were found to have been involved in an attack of 19-year-old Majola, who was walking in Phoenix when he was attacked by a group of people, and we do understand that his injuries resulted in his death. The brothers, of course, were not found to have murdered Majola because the judge did state that the state had failed to prove that Majola died as a result of the assault that he suffered during the unrest. So they were found guilty of common assault, and also, of course, they were found to have or found guilty of attempted murder. Of course, they will be serving their sentences concurrently, and we do understand that they're going to be spending 7 years behind bars for these crimes.
Well, Lethiwe, thank you for this update. Once again, the 2021 July unrest taking center stage, just in terms of some of the convictions that we are seeing as we continue to, of course, look back at some of the lessons, at the reflections, but also justice needing to be served for those who had unfortunately lost their lives. But thank you so much, colleague, reporter, eNCA reporter Lethiwe Mdluli, for us on that story where the Govender brothers have now been found guilty on assault, common assault, attempted murder, serving those 7-year sentences concurrently.